Oh, it is.
Yeah, Roy said he wanted it better. Yes. Is that what you got out of that? Because that's what I got out of that.
I think we're all here. All right, I see a thumbs up. All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our July 26, 2021 convening of the Auburn City Council. We are coming out of closed session, have nothing to report out of closed session. And with that, we'll go ahead and jump right into roll call again. Amy, please.
Sure. Councilmember Berlant.
Here.
Amara.
Present.
Dowden Calvillo.
Present.
And Mayor Spokely.
Here, thank
For the
you.
record, Councilmember Riddell Harris will be absent.
Not feeling well this evening. Next up is the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Holmes, would you please
Lead us.
lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Putting you on the spot.
You don't have to. Thank you for that. Next up is agenda approval. This is a time set aside for council members and or the public to ask for removal, postponement, or change in the listed sequence of agenda items. The agenda will be approved by the consensus of the council. Council members, any changes to our agenda this evening? Seeing none, are there any members of the public who would like to adjust or change the sequence of our agenda this evening? Seeing and hearing none, we'll go ahead with the agenda as presented. First up on the agenda is consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine in nature and will be approved by one blanket motion with a roll call vote. There will be no separate discussions of these items unless persons request specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for discussion and separate action. Any items removed will be considered after the motion to approve the consent calendar. And as we have typically been doing, I will ask our city manager, Mr. John Dunleavy, to run down and give us a quick description of each of our consent calendar items.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, 4 items on the consent calendar tonight. Item number 1 are the city council minutes of June 14th. Item number 2 is the assignment of a ground lease for 12745 Earhart Avenue. That's at the Auburn Airport. Just for the information of the public, there is a revised resolution for this, as well as a revised estoppel certificate that has been provided and is available for review in the city clerk's office. Item number 3 is an amendment to an environmental consulting agreement with Jacobson James and Associates. This has to do with the closed Auburn landfill. They've been providing assistance and technical review regarding some of the updated permitting and our work with the Regional Water Quality Control Board. And then finally is the contract renewal for our animal services agreement with Placer County. This is a 3-year agreement. Each one of the agreements go in a series of 3 years. In this case, it's actually going down, but in the first year it goes up. Overall, it's about a 12% reduction in overall cost, but for some reason, in the first year, it's going up $6,000. So it's essentially based on the way that Animal Services is set up. It provides for essentially a true up every couple of years as far as the overall cost of services. And in this case, it has a little bit of good and a little. So this year, we see the impact for this fiscal year. It's going to go up 6,000, and then we'll catch up with 36,000 somehow in the following 2 years. And that is the consent calendar.
Thank you very much. I'll turn to council first for any items that anybody would like to pull.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull item number 4.
Item number 4, anybody else? Seeing none, any members of the public have items that they'd like to pull off our consent calendar? All right, seeing none. Amy, any public comment? None. Great, thank you very much. I'll go ahead and entertain a motion for the consent calendar minus item number 4.
Mr. Mayor, I'll go ahead and move that we approve the consent calendar without item number 4.
I'll second that.
Amy?
Councilmember Berlant.
Aye.
Amara.
Yes.
Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Mayor Spokesman.
Yes. Item number 4, I'll turn that over to Councilwoman Dowden Calvillo.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question. When I was reading the description of the services, it talked about the disposal of dead animals. I know this is kind of a morbid discussion, but in the scope of services of the contract itself, it does not talk about that. And the reason I bring it up is living over where I do along the canyon rim, there often are deceased wild animals, and just had one the other day, a very unfortunate situation, and my neighbor asked me what to do with it. And I remembered that Animal Control Services we're supposed to be able to give them a call, and they would come and get it, but that's not discussed in the scope of services, even though it's talked about in the summary. So I'm not sure if we have further information about that, but I think that's important that we have that spelled out in the contract. Are you going to address that?
Sure.
I know you guys wrangle goats, but are you going to come up and pick up our?
Well, good evening, council. Ryan Canan, your chief of police, here to talk about the animal control contract. So to answer your question, Councilwoman Dowden Calvillo, is that yes, what happens is we provide a very kind of early level of services as it relates to animal control. So we do have a truck, and we do have personnel that can go get those deceased animals, and then we can go take them to the animal control shelter, which is the agreement that you have, where they will actually do the disposal.
Okay.
Now, if we get to a point where it's too large of an animal or there's other issues going on, what we can do is call the animal services, then they will come pick them up, and we would get a bill for those services outside what the agreement talks about.
Okay, so then for the purposes of our constituents, then they would just call the non-emergency police department number if they have an animal that is deceased on their properties.
Is
So wild
deceased.
turkey. I mean, I'm just.
Well, I think we're talking about on private property versus public
Well,
property.
that's the question that I have, is that it talks
I
about.
may have missed that.
disposal of dead animals. And so
Mhm.
again, living where I live, I had a neighbor that had a fawn that had passed. And so he wasn't sure what to do with that animal. And so I remembered that animal control addressed the disposal of dead animals. And so I'm just trying to get clarification. If it's them, if it's,
So
if it's a resident, I mean.
sure, if Placer County,
Garbage. I
so
don't-
Placer County Health and Human Services, Animal Control, they are responsible for the disposal of the animals themselves at the shelter. Now, if it is on private property, they can call us, and we will respond, and we will
Okay.
assess it from that point. Obviously, we don't want our residents to be stuck with a fawn or something else on their property and then end up with a carcass. So we will
Yeah, because they're
definitely help
healthy,
out
yeah.
our
Yeah.
residents. Yes. So
Absolutely. And they
So-
bring other animals up and it's just,
Yeah, so we don't want dead carcasses on people's property, so we'll do what we can to help them and make sure we fix that problem.
okay.
So,
Thank you. I
got it.
appreciate that. I know that that's not an issue for all of our neighborhoods, but there are some of us that live in the more rural areas that is a real life thing, unfortunately. And just want to make sure that we're clear on what happens,
Yep.
and whose jurisdiction. So thank you very much.
You got it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That concludes my question.
Thank you very much. Any other questions?
I just have a
Councilmember
comment
Lamb?
when we're ready.
Go ahead.
I just want to mention, animal control has come here, the county has, to present this agreement, not this renewal. And one thing that I do want to commend them on is they do a very good job of outsourcing or insourcing pets from other communities that lowers their cost down, which then lowers our costs, which is explains why ours goes up and down. But unlike what I think most contracted county or government organizations just look to try to build the maximum amount, the Health and Human Services Animal Control has really done a very good job of looking for creative ways to bring down their cost down, which then bring our portion of the cost down as well. So appreciate that effort that they've done.
They work with a lot of nonprofits with regards to sheltering and so forth. So that's one way they can keep those costs down. So I agree with you.
So I would like to piggyback on that comment. Another way that we can reduce our costs is actually through the licensing of animals. This is one of those things I understand it's not necessarily always taken seriously, but actually licensing your dogs, your cats, and your animals would significantly also help us reduce those costs. If you saw in the staff report, our animals stay in the shelter for about 15 days on average, with one being as long as 90 days. That daily cost is pretty significant. And as you can see, if we were able to get those licensing, the shelter, and well as our staff could locate the property owners sooner, rather than maybe even having to put the animal in the shelter to begin with.
So we've talked a lot about licensing with them and with you at the last presentation. Where are we with moving to an online licensing program?
So I'm super excited as we walk into technology in a lot of different ways, we'll be able to actually do the online registration. We currently can't do it through our system we have at the police department, but moving forward to the city technology, that will be one of those things that we'll be able to do. And we all know that the convenience factor of it is very important.
Absolutely.
I have a question.
Yay.
While you're up there,
Sure.
I just have an off question. Do you get a lot of calls for dangerous and aggressive animals that are loose in or around the city?
It's a good question. I don't have that answer with me. I certainly look it up and I can get back to the city council on that.
Okay.
But I don't believe it's a very significant number. Most
I'd
of
be
ours.
very interested in that.
Sure.
Good.
I don't
Thank
know.
you.
I heard a mountain lion the other night that was very close.
I live in Citrus
I'm
Heights, so we had a mountain lion, so it
Dogs.
could be anywhere.
Dogs.
I
most.
know.
Okay.
Great.
There are bears around too, though.
Mhm.
Chief, thank you very much. Are there any members of the public that have questions or comments on this item?
Thank you, Chief.
All right. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and bring it back for a motion.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I will move by resolution that we approve the 3-year contractual agreement between the City of Auburn and Placer County's Animal Control and Care Services from July 1st, 2021 to July 30th, 2024, and authorize the city manager or his designee to execute that agreement.
I'll second that.
Great. Motion and a second. Amy, you call roll.
Councilmember Berland.
Aye.
O'Mara.
Yes.
Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
And Mayor Skelly.
Yes. Okay, next up is public comment. This is the time provided so that the public may speak to the council on items not on this agenda. Please make your comments as brief as possible. The council cannot act on items not included on the agenda. However, the items will be automatically referred to staff. Council members also have an option to speak on any items not on the agenda at this time. And I'll go ahead and jump in. I see a new face here in our chambers. Yes. Not new to me because I see him all the time where I do most of my work. Nathan Bagwell is here. Nathan, welcome. He is our Director of Admin Services. So if you see him around the halls or see him here in the chambers, say hi to him for us. We're looking forward to working with you. Welcome to Auburn. And I'm going to let John talk about the big event this last weekend, the Tevis, or maybe Alice would want to, but any other comments from the council?
I was going to talk about that under reports, but
That's fine. We can do it then.
Yeah.
All right, how about the members of the public? We'll go ahead and open up public comment. Hi, Sally.
It is so nice to see everybody and be here. The paperwork mentions the airport, and I wanted to share that I took care of Bill Clark, and he said that the original Auburn Airport started out where DeWitt is. It was one runway in a cow pasture, and you had to bring someone with you to help chase the cows off the runway before you could take off. And if they were there when you wanted to land, you came down and scared them off before you could land. Anyway, I'm Sally Dolly, the Butt Lady of Auburn, and I've been working on my community project as usual. So many people appreciate what I'm doing. And as of today, I'm at 2,042,766 poisonous cigarette butts that aren't going to be eaten by birds, dogs, fish, any other animal. So,
And they just keep showing up.
yes, they don't care.
It's crazy.
Smokers do not care. I can go on and on about how I think about them. Anyway.
Sally, thank you very much. for
thank
all
you,
do.
Sally.
All right, Mike Holmes, a resident of Auburn. I'm wondering how you talked to Bill Clark. He's been dead for a long time, but
I used to take care of them.
oh, you used to take care of him. Oh, okay. All right, okay. And Mr. Mayor, thank you for letting me to do the Pledge of Allegiance. A couple items I wanted to mention. And I know our city manager has been very busy with a lot of things going on, but I wanted to mention a few items that maybe the city ought to take a closer look at. Over a number of years, we have been working on the Electric Street Stormwater Diversion project, which is to divert stormwater from up in the Alta Vista Electric Street area into the American River Canyon, rather than having it flow all the way through a lot of old pipes and so forth in downtown Auburn. Also, the El Dorado Street Firehouse, which was refurbished from about 2004 to 2005 or 6, is showing signs of more dry rot and that sort of thing. I was happy to see the city Public Works put two new one new and one old plaque up on the front of the firehouse, but I'd like to talk to somebody about doing some work to refurbish the outside, particularly the front of that building. And a couple of Historic Design Review Commission issues, particularly the future of Lawyers Row, which was on the National Register of Historic Places, which was approved for a redesign and so forth about 6 years ago, I guess. Nothing has happened there. And also, just to mention that many of you are familiar with the Bernhardt Museum up on Auburn Folsom Road. There was an effort 50 years ago to refurbish that and make it part of the Placer County Museum system. And so there's an event on the 10th of December that will acknowledge that. And I'm hoping that the city of Auburn will provide some support for that as well. Also coming up on the 11th of November is Veterans Day. We hope to have the theme of the Veterans Day Parade is Honor Guards. And we're hoping to have the city police honor guard and other honor guards in the community participate in that parade. I can give you more details if John has some time to get together with me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Holmes. Any other members of the public? Sally forgot something?
With Bill Clark, his dad had the first Ford dealership in Auburn. The building across the street from the State Theater, he had built in 1919 and moved his dealership there. And Henry Ford had family in Forest Hill and Auburn. So when he's visiting family, he's checking these guys. And Henry Ford still has family in Auburn. And I forgot to mention that tomorrow I got invited by the new gentleman at K-High for tomorrow at 4:15 and 5:15 to be on K-High.
Excellent.
Probably talk about butts.
I'm guessing. Thank you, Sally. Did I see anybody else?
Any comments?
Jackie, any chamber updates?
I'm here to support these guys.
Gotcha. All right. We will go ahead then and close public comment and move into council business. First up is Western States Trail Museum, 1103 High Street. Who's taking this one, John?
And just, yes, John will be taking it, but I just wanted to let the council know that for the purposes of the record, I did serve on this board of directors for the Western States Trail Museum, but I have since resigned. So I am no longer an official member of the board of directors for this item.
I just want to note that I'm not a lawyer, but I think that's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous that I had to resign. Yeah. I appreciate that very much because violation is banned for life from public office and a crime.
Real good. Well, why don't I kick into the item? Staff is recommending that the city council give us authorization to enter into an exclusive negotiating agreement for a 180-day period with the Western States Trail Museum board. Since about March of this year, we have been working with the board on the concept of the idea of potentially siting a museum at 1103 High Street. The idea is essentially getting in, reconfiguring the building, allowing that the chamber and the museum would work together on an overall capital program to facilitate a museum downstairs, potentially the relocation of the chamber upstairs, and that we would bring a destination. And I know that there are members of the board for the Trail Museum here. One of the things that is just amazing about Central Square is that we have synergy. There's a lot going on there. You've got the art park, you've got the commercial businesses, you've got a location of immense vitality. And the idea as we work with the Visit Placer, the chamber does a very good job. The idea of adding an additional amenity there that is privately sourced and funded and would be able to take two of the things that really put Auburn on the world map and put them that also in the location. In order to do that, it's requiring that we be able to go through and actually noodle through the costs and the mechanics of how that type of an agreement would come through. And in the public side, the way that you do that is through an exclusive negotiating agreement. With that, I would be happy to answer any questions. I know that you have members of their board that might want to come and talk about it. I don't want to steal any of their thunder. So I'll just leave it at the mechanics of the idea that staff's asking that the city council give staff direction to move forward with the process.
I think at this time, it makes sense to invite board members up to speak to us. If you have something, have a presentation or something you want to share with us. Hi, good evening.
We're going to tag team a little bit.
There you go.
Good evening, and thank you for the invitation. It's good to be back here in the building. I went to school here at one time for a short period. Looks great. Yes, about a year and a half ago, a nonprofit was formed with the express purpose of, as John explained, establishing or at least proposing of the Western States Trail Museum for all the right reasons. I was recruited probably, let's see, it was back in the fall of last year with the thought that maybe I could contribute in some way in establishing that museum. So I attended a few meetings. It was evident to me that just talking about it, as they had even preceded before them, I think some 20 years ago, I remember talk of the need for a museum. You're well acquainted with the Tevis Cup 100-mile one-day ride. It's in its 66th year, established in 1955, right here in Auburn, and spun from that, the Western States Ultra Marathon Endurance Run, both contributing handsomely to businesses and the attention given to the city of Auburn and the county of Placer along its 100-mile stretch. But a lot of folks don't realize that this trail just doesn't go from the North Lake Tahoe area to Auburn, but extends further east to from that area of North Lake Tahoe to Carson City, and west from Auburn to Sacramento, thus the name Western States Trail, a capital trail. It's one of the few trans Sierra routes still in existence. We have the history, we have the archives, you name it, the journals, the photographs. We know about the gold rush and the mining activities, but what we also have is a lot of natural history, geology, the early settlers of this area, and what they saved for us. And of course, Native Americans who from this area bartered with the Washoe and had to, again, cross the Sierra Nevadas on this very same trail. We have evidence of that and want to share all of this history with the public. It deserves a good spot. And so when I was recruited, I made it a mission. I said, we could talk about this until the cows come home, but we need a site, we need a location. And so I took it upon myself to identify buildings for lease, buildings for sale, buildings that may come for sale, looked at the public properties, and I'll tell you, all fingers pointed to 1103 High Street. It's just the perfect spot. And in cooperation with the Chamber of Commerce, who we approached, did not want to displace. We've come to, in principle, an agreement that how this might work for everyone, city, the chamber, and the museum board. So I invite any questions from the council, either here or at any other time. We're open for discussion.
And I was just going to elaborate. Thank you very much, Hal, as our president of the board. And I just really see this as such a wonderful opportunity for the city to partner with this particular nonprofit and bring that museum downtown. I envision people enjoying the museum, learning information, and then going out and just a few steps, catching our little Confluence shuttle down to the actual Western States Trail. How awesome is that? You know, visiting our businesses and eating in our restaurants and so forth. And it, you know, again, we are the endurance capital of the world. So it just makes so much sense. We attract international visitors, you know, for the competitions that we have. And so we have a built-in audience. One thing we also have is we actually are working with Wells Fargo, who has a whole host of great items in their own museum collections that they have made aware that they are looking for homes for some of them. And we would be an ideal recipient of some of those items. So I just think this is such a wonderful opportunity. And it was wonderful having the chance to talk with the chamber about this, to get their support, because when we went out and visited the building, my first thing was I called Jackie, what do you think about this? I don't want to displace you. And she'll, of course, comment herself, but it's such a great opportunity. You know, that building is underutilized right now. And we have the opportunity to not only house a museum, but to put the chamber in a location I think they'd much rather have, but also lease out other space up there and get revenue to help us offset the cost of the building, the maintenance of that building. So really it's a win-win. And so I'm very grateful that we had the opportunity to bring this before you. Again, I'm speaking as a council member, but I know I wanted just to be able to have that opportunity to elaborate.
Great. Thank you very much, Jackie. Normally
Hi.
we'd wait until public comment, but you're a part of
This
this.
is about this.
Yes, he's
I'm
part.
going to allow it.
I am Elise E of the building.
You're one of the legs of this.
Yes. I am of this seat. I just wanted to speak on behalf of the chamber that I feel like when I started with the chamber in August of last year, it'll be almost a year. The fact that was so underutilized upstairs, then I started talking with John on how we could move ourselves upstairs, because to me it was prime office space for myself. And then the museum came along and we talked about that. I feel like this would be a win-win for the city. It would be a win for our businesses and a win for the community as a whole. I feel like it'll really bring a lot more vibrance to downtown, even though we have a ton, especially having the Welcome Center next door, having the food, having the State Theater. It all would tie in together. And I agree with the Confluence bus. It would help to have a stop there as well.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is just win for all of us. The fact that we have so much office space upstairs that's not being utilized was where I started with, was trying to figure out a way to use space that is perfectly wonderful and overlooks our great town. So I'm really excited for this. I hope that the council sees the greatness it can bring to the community. And the chamber is really excited to move upstairs and team up with the Welcome Center and make it work for everybody. So we're totally on board, and we're not being displaced. I want to be up there and to have people that I've known most of my life, and my dad sat on the board for the Tevis. So I think it's fantastic for this town to have that museum. So thanks.
Great. Thank you very much, Jackie. With that, we'll go ahead and wrap up the presentation. I'll bring it back to council for questions, and we'll start down here. Councilmember Lant.
No questions.
Okay. Okay. I don't have any questions either. Do you have any?
No, I have no questions.
Okay, I didn't figure so. With that, we'll go ahead and open it up to the rest of the public here this evening for any other comments or questions.
Yes, I've talked to several people who've been working on this for a number of years, and we were looking at the Carnegie Library building, which is vacant now, and this possibility of the museum being downstairs at 1103 sounds intriguing. And I know this is a 180-day period of considering what the cost would be, because I'm assuming that you're going to have to put a lift between the downstairs and upstairs. But it's correct that that upstairs space has been, there was a business in there not too long ago and they moved out and so it's been vacant. So at the last time I was up there, the offices looked like they're in pretty good condition upstairs in that building. And since I'm here talking about Western States stuff, I just want to let you know that the effort to get the Tevis Cup and the Western States Endurance Run, which this council passed a resolution about, has gone to, and others have also passed resolutions, have gone to the state legislature for their consideration to officially make those endurance events officially recognized by the state of California. So there's, I've not had any formal feedback yet from members of our state legislature, but I think they're considering it and may move forward with it. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. Any other members of the public that would like to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public comment, bring it back to council for their comments. I'll start with you, Councilman Berlin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be fairly brief. I'm very supportive of this. I look forward to what work staff does. I think based on Mr. Holmes's comments, ADA is probably going to be an important discussion, but I also think that we need to thank the chamber because I know and what Jackie, you didn't mention is the amount of dollars the chamber put in to renovate that first floor. And so I know it's going to take cost to bring that second floor to the standard that the chamber has built out the first floor and the work that's been done. But definitely, I think it's an underutilized space. And look forward to it. I know that a past chamber president, Kathleen Schaefer, had come in front of us at one point talking about the idea of using it as some open space for people to work there, but rent the offices. And there was a better word for it that I'm not articulating, but it's nice to see that plan potentially through the chamber actually come alive while adding such a historic item to the first floor. Not even to mention the great things that we can capture. And I love the idea of doing something with the Carnegie Library, but it is so tucked away back there that it just is not going to get the same traffic that old City Hall location provides. And so I think this is a win-win, and hopefully people can get their Tango frozen yogurt, walk across the art park, sit under the umbrellas, and then walk into the museum and check out what impact that our equestrian friends had on our community. So very supportive of it. Look forward to seeing what the staff results are in the next 180 days.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Council or Vice Mayor Amaro.
Thank you. Yes, and I'm very supportive of this. This is a conclusion of our branding, so to speak. It's very important that we be very visible. This is an underutilized space. However, I am also very interested in the cost and how ultimately this will come about. But I'm very, very supportive, and I think that we do need to have some exposure for our endurance feats here in town. What Councilman Berlant said about the Tango frozen yogurt, well, along with that, we do need garbage cans. So make sure that that's part of the plan. Anyway, so I am supportive. It's a very good concept. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Councilwoman Dowden Calvillo.
I would just say that I would urge your aye vote on this. I'm so excited about this, and I think that the opportunities are endless, and I'm so grateful to hear that my colleagues are supportive. So
I too am supportive of this item. I'm anxious to hear what the negotiations yield as far as costs and ongoing operating plans. I will say that there was a tremendous amount of work that has gone into that chamber building, and some of the folks, Harvey Roper was there almost daily evening working on that building, Nick Willick, a lots and lots of volunteer hours went into that space. So this seems like a very good use for that space. And doing something upstairs is also going to be a great thing.
Yep.
So with that, I will go ahead and entertain a motion.
I would very much like to make the motion, Mr. Mayor. I will move that we authorize the development of a 180-day exclusive negotiation agreement for the potential remodel and siting of the Western States Trail Museum in the first floor of the 1103 High Street.
I'll second it.
Amy, if you would please call roll.
Councilmember Bland.
Aye.
Kamara.
Yes.
Dowden Calvia.
Aye.
Mayor Skelly.
Yes. Congratulations. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to city manager's report. Mr. Dunleavy?
There we go. Yeah, Mayor and Council, just, I'm not going to take Councilmember Dowden Calvillo's thunder on, from the Tevis Cup this weekend because she was out there until the wee hours of the morning. I have just one thing to report, and that has to do just an update on where we're at regarding the Carnegie Library and bringing that back to the council. We are in process right now of having a commercial building inspector go through and do a complete evaluation of the building, the upgrades that need to be happen, just to have that independent. John May, our city building official, is overseeing that, but we're going to have somebody come in and literally just like a home inspection. They're going to go through and they're going to point out everything just so that we can have an independent source that's an expert in making sure that we know what needs to be done, evaluation of the electrical, the HVAC, because there is a lot to be known about the building. We do have some information and some preliminary costs on some of the accessibility upgrades that need to be happen, but we do need to know what some of the improvements need to be made to bring that building up to speed. And I will tell you that I had a wonderful time at the Tevis Cup this weekend, and I got the full experience and seeing Hal and Shannon and everybody. My wife and I were just blown away. You know, the Western States Trail Run is one thing, but to see the way that the folks, the animals, the riders, the crews, I think everybody needs one day to be treated like a Tevis horse because as they came into each one of the location, it was actually pretty good, but it was quite the day for me as I experienced all things Auburn for the very first time. It shows really what a special community this is, the people involved, and why Auburn really is the endurance capital of the world.
Your wife did make it clear, though, no new horses, right?
No horse at Casa Dunleavy, I can tell you that. But
Great, thank you very much. And we'll roll right into council member
I have a
reports.
question.
Oh, yeah, please.
Yeah, just when will the Carnegie report be done? Do you have any idea?
so it's about getting the inspector to get into the building. And I will report back to the council until we get it in. The real
We
estate market.
have one picked out and an individual who'll be doing it?
Well, the one that we had picked out fell through, but our building official, John May, is wrangling this, getting somebody in and getting the overall thing done.
Okay, so if we can have you think a month out, or you'll report to us soon then about that?
Yep.
Okay, and then also the paving, we were going to have a report on the paving project for Auburn, the roads. Will that be coming in the next meeting, or is?
You know what, we'll try and get something, an overall update for the next council meeting, which right now, we don't really have much of an agenda for the next meeting, but if we can, we'll do something very briefly and get it on.
Thank you. And one last thing is, I know I've been asked by a lot of constituents about the one-way up there. Is there going to be a reporting? We have a report on it. Thank you. I didn't have to ask you this. Okay.
I won't steal that
That's-
thunder. either.
That's all I have.
All right, Councilwoman Dowden Calvillo, you want to start?
Yes, thank you very much. We did have a Pioneer Energy Board of Directors meeting, and I'm trying, I've been in so many meetings and I failed to bring my agenda with me. But we continue to work on addressing the grid issues for power shutoffs. So that's a big issue for us. We continue to work on that effort. With regards to Tevis, yes, we just had the 66th annual running of the Tevis Cup. It was quite an event. It always is. We had some really neat finishes. First of all, the first place winner was Jeremy Reynolds, and he's not new to this. He's won, I think this was his fourth win. So it was great to see him come into the fairgrounds late at night, because the horses take a lot longer than the runners do. And part of the reason for that is because they have mandatory stops where they have to rest for an hour, and the runners can just run all the way through if they so wish to do so. So they are always slower than the runners, but it was a great opportunity. There were 63 finishers out of 133 starts. So that just tells you the magnitude of the difficulty of the trail. The conditions were tough because it was very smoky and it was quite humid as well. I had a couple of my friends finish, so I was so very pleased to see them finish. And there was a couple of notable finishes. We had a young lady, Kyla, a 13-year-old young lady from Utah that finished the Tevis Cup on her pony, 12 hands. And that's the smallest horse that's ever completed the Tevis, was this year, this 12-hand Hackney pony. And they always have this traditional picture of the horses climbing Cougar Rock. And that pony was almost vertical because it was so small, jumping up that peak, and just amazing. There was a group on Facebook. We were all cheering for the pony. And it was my honor to have the opportunity to sit down with her. My daughter is 13, so the girls chatted. So it was great, just really, really neat. We also had the oldest finisher of the Tevis this year, a gentleman by the name of Peter Davis on FF Fargo, and he finished the ride and he's at the age of 81. So there is hope for us someday.
Ouch.
Someday. God. Me too.
I
There's hope
have
for
a
us.
huge ramp up to get to 81. So
Yes, but there is.
You got
we
time
have
on that
time.
side, John.
That's my point. We have time.
We
I'm
can
not
do
just,
this.
so, but it was a great an opportunity to really celebrate endurance, and so glad to have the opportunity to go to the awards banquet last night and speak on behalf of the city in celebration of Auburn as the endurance capital of the world. So it was a great time. Saw Daniel, he texted me. I'm like, thank you.
That's it?
That concludes my report.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Oh, wait, no, one more. Sorry. State Theater. They're going to have their event. It's an annual fundraising event. It's great. It's Staying Alive is the theme. I hope that you'll all be there in costume. And I want to say it's on September 25th. It's Cocktails and Cinema. Again, the theme is Staying Alive at the State Theater, and it's going to be a great time. We are going to come in costume, so you guys got to bring it. So anyway, that's it. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much. Vice Mayor Mara.
Thank you. So sustainability met, and there's a few items that they're working on. Downtown tree planting. They're in the process of getting an architecture. So they want to have it designed and working with the city. So that's an effort they're working on. Electric car charging expansion. They're working with Mengel on that to see and find places for car charging. And the waste management and SB 1383, that is something that a member of the committee is working or trying to get together with our city manager on that to see how sustainability can be of help in that regard. And finally, the website development is an ongoing process. If you want to look at a really good sustainability website, go to the Truckee one. That's wonderful. It's very interactive and gives a lot of information to people. And for recycle, I'm sorry, going backwards, Boulder, Colorado has a wonderful recycle website or a page. So those are all something you might want to take a peek at. And then the mosquito vector group met, and they're a very efficient group and got through it was a very short agenda. And finally, I just want to bring up that I've had a lot of people, I guess, on social media and also call me. We do need more garbages. I was joking, but I am serious. We do need more garbages in Central Square and around and about. So anyway, that's something just for everybody to think about. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Councilmember Lamb.
Well, I might as well just segue to the Old Town Business Association, and on their agenda was trash cans. I won't belabor the point because we've been having this discussion for several years. But one thing, though, that I do want to mention from them, well, a couple things real quick, is they are moving forward with their Christmas event. Still up in the air if they call it Country Christmas or Classic Christmas, which it had been rebranded more recently. They don't really care. They just want it to be Christmas. And so it'll likely actually be called Old Town Christmas. Discussions also revolved around, will they do 2 weekends in December or just one? And the discussion really was about the workload that it takes to put on 2, but I think they landed that they'll do 2 events, not on the day of the parade. So the weekend of the parade is, I think, is the 1st December. They would do the 2nd and the 3rd Saturday of December. So look forward more on that. We did have some good discussion, though, on a report that John had forwarded to us that I don't think, John, got highlighted, unless I'm mistaken, in your economic report. And that was just the restaurant increases during COVID. And so I think it's a big enough news to highlight that. And we discussed it at OTBA. And just the fact that in the second quarter of the fiscal year, the end of 2020, the tax return dollars specifically to restaurant revenue, I think statewide was down about 12%, if I'm not mistaken, John. Our county obviously worked significantly hard to get money out, and specifically folks like Jackie worked very hard to get outdoor dining in our county. But if I'm not mistaken, the whole county and the other cities were down -5 or something like that. John, you can correct me on the numbers in just a second. But our city was the only one that had a revenue that actually went up. And that discussion with a couple of the restaurant owners, granted, at least one was a pretty large anchor restaurant owner down there, but they really credited the city in just working with them to not waive permits per se, but to streamline the process. And so they gave a lot of kudos. And I know some of that started to spill into the traffic committee, as there's some long-term outdoor areas, specifically in Old Town, that we'll be discussing here in the future. But I just wanted to highlight that for the group because there is a lot of negativity sometimes in discussions at the business association meetings. And that was a very lively, positive discussion and positive kudos. You want to correct me on the numbers, John, just so we get it on the record?
So first quarter 2021. So it was basically January through March of this year. We were the only city in the region that had a positive number. 0.6 isn't going to win most prizes, but in this one, the rest of the county was down by 2.6, and the state of California was down by 15.8% on average throughout the rest of the state. And that goes to the efforts of this council, all of the economic meetings that we kept, literally the council's insistence that we needed to support the businesses, the work with Placer County. There aren't any other counties that did what Placer County did. And I think it was based on the persistence and leadership that we had, saying we need money to go to them. Jackie in the chamber. I don't think anybody worked harder than Jackie in getting the information out, pushing it to everybody. Placer shares 1, 2, 3, hundreds of thousands. We received over $2 million. And it was because Jackie and the leadership of this council to get that money across. And when everybody else is losing their business, the rest of the state is almost 16% down. we were positive, and it just shows our overall persistence on everything. I personally, it's a big deal. As we were talking with our sales tax consultant from HTL, they're like, this is just, you're an anomaly in what was happening. And it's thrilling because in the hardest times, we thrive. And that just means that as we move forward on the other things, it really is the synergy. It's people working hard, and it's just a credit to Auburn. So anyway, it was
And I
good.
bring it up, not to pat ourselves on the back, but just to bring back to this group the appreciation from the entire business association, not just those restaurant owners. Moving on to the traffic committee, as Vice Mayor Mara teased, obviously there are now really kind of two major items that I just want to flag for everybody. The first one is the Lincoln Way one-way project. The city sent it out to an engineer study and looked at the traffic impacts that making some alterations to, or alterations, I should say, to Lincoln Way and what that would have on the side streets. Surprisingly, fairly minimal. There are some impacts to Magnolia, but overall, it's actually a pretty good wash. So my understanding, well, the traffic committee, we voted to move it forward to city council. My understanding is city staff will be having us host a public meeting so we can get input from not just the business association, who obviously is supportive of it, but to notify residents and all those others. And I think city staff will do a good job either ahead of time or at the public hearing to really get those numbers out so that you understand how many more cars or how less cars in some cases there will be on some of the streets. So kudos to Menjel and his team, as well as the chief and the others kind of getting this, because we really have been talking about it for over a year. But in that time, a lot of good stuff has been done. Homework has been done to make sure that when we make that decision, that if we choose to do so, that we are informed on the impacts that it has, both beneficially and some traffic issues. So with that, though, came kind of the initial discussions with the Old Town Business Association. They have long been kind of discussing what to do with their CARES dollars, which, by the way, they still haven't used. And they've really come back with a proposal to close Washington Street, which is behind Cafe Delicious, the section of it that is more or less behind the post office, but in front of, yeah, but not further down the road there. So that you would shut, in the proposal at least, it would shut off Washington at pretty much the beginning of the ale house. So you could still have some parking. I think the parking spaces right now that their proposal would be to remove 6 spots, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around 6. There is a ADA handicap one, which will require it to be replaced somewhere else. But if I'm not mistaken, the discussion of this was for staff to really do a good deep dive review of it, make sure the fire department for access, the police department for traffic flow, and do a traffic study there as well. And that was not as impactful as obviously Lincoln Way. And there's a lot more to this project. And I think as John and I have talked to, and what their desire is, this may actually be more of a beautification and infrastructure discussion than a true traffic issue. The chief really worked hard, though the rest of us didn't help, to try to keep it to the traffic committee to deal with traffic. But obviously the big discussion is, what is it going to look like? How is it permanent? Is it temporary? And what is the funding going to be to really make it look like we're not just putting up a bunch of barriers and street, orange cones in the road and allowing them to use it for a couple months. So I just wanted to put that on your radar. I think that one is probably months away, if maybe not closer to a year, if we follow the Lincoln Way project, but just put it on everybody's radar. Then just a couple quick things here. There were a few discussions here and there about speeding on streets. Chief always does a good job of listening to those and then sending out the traffic data collection system. I believe I saw it's on College Way right now. If you drive there, I assume it will tell you how fast you are going, but also collect that data, because there are some complaints on College Way, but also some parking issues in residential areas. And so there was some discussion about potentially turning a portion of Boardman Street, I had to look it up because it's a little one, Boardman Street, having a small section be residential parking only. So with that, that is the end of my 2 committee reports that met over last week. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll be brief. July is SACOG's, they shut down for the month, so we didn't have that meeting, and the Placer County Flood Control and Water Conservation District meeting was also canceled. So not much there. I do want to make a comment though, and we talked about this at our last in-person meeting. Amy has been busy with IT staff, and everything went very well tonight. So nicely done, Amy. I see we've got some new screens up and some different things going on. So I'm looking forward to actually having somebody call in to one of our meetings.
Yes, I was really looking forward to somebody on Zoom because we have the audio dialed in. It was gonna be great, but next time.
2 seconds.
Too late.
I'll see if I can get my wife or daughter to call in next time just to make sure we get to test it out.
You
Yes.
can call in with the clock.
What's that?
Call in when the clock goes off.
There you go. That's perfect. Yes.
Yes, that's for public comment, that clock. Oh.
All righty. With that, I'll go ahead and adjourn our meeting. Thank you all. Have a safe drive home.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, it feels good to be here.
Oh, it's good to be done at a decent time too.